In this video, we're looking at somewhere to train, somewhere for your club to set down as roots for it to allow to grow, a substantial place that it can train and practice and possibly even play with peace of mind. Now, looking forward, there are three main areas that we can consider potentially getting hold of facilities. These are city councils and county council run pitches themselves, education centres such as schools, universities, and leisure centres. All three are going to run different types of facilities, have different access to facilities, and all going to run slightly differently with different costs. Now, of course, cost is going to be a big factor, and we need to consider this, but what we really need to consider before we think of that is what kind of facility we need. You know, do you need a grass pitch? Or if you're saying doing basketball or something like that, do you need like a hard court? Maybe an Astro, a 3G is more inclined to your sport. Or maybe you even need indoor facilities. These are all going to possibly influence the actual decision on who you're going to pick. Now, of course, cost is also going to be a big factor, and you really should try and see if there's any way that you can work the cost into some kind of system. Whether you're bartering with, say, the county councils to try and use their pitches maybe out of hours when they're not being used for little or no cost. Maybe you can look into Sport England or other sporting initiatives about grant access and maybe some funding through county sports partnerships and other such organisations that are there to help. There's also the use of, if you are using this as part of the Marjon Sports Starter Guide, about getting some access to maybe educational facilities around maybe a subject or project for that said educational facility. You know, maybe a university team, for example. Or maybe even you can look at considering a subsystem within your club. You know, £1 or £2 from the players just to help alleviate the club and make sure that you've got the right facilities where you need them. And finally, of course, is going to be the location. The location of the actual facilities themselves is going to be important. You don't want to be setting yourselves out too far out of town. You've got to remember people are going to need to be able to travel to you. As well, with the location of facilities, think about the potential market you can actually break into. If you are looking for a university team, you're probably going to find more participants on university campus. Simple as. Rather than, say, finding a facility nicely out of town where you've got to drive to it. Ultimately, as well, if you're trying to run a community team, if you're going to try and run one within the community, it's best to probably find some facilities in that actual community rather than the next estate over. It makes sense that way that you got this sense of you know where your actual club is, and it's actually building that presence in the community, as we say. Thinking about these three key parts will come together when you're trying to secure somewhere to train. These are location, the actual facilities, and the cost involved. If you take all these three pieces and put them together, then you're more than likely going to be more successful when you're trying to locate somewhere to train.